Hi everyone, I am Night Shifter and I cannot stay away from this fucking game. I've said before that I wouldn't post any more FighterZ content on this channel, but things happened and there's a new balance patch around the corner now. Hiroki herself said that this summer after EVO, there's gonna be a new balance patch where she's also collaborating with Arc System Works. So that's quite promising, and since it's coming pretty soon, I figured I would take the opportunity to ramble on a bit about what I would personally like to see for this game, the changes that I want to see to system mechanics and characters and such. I'm not gonna talk about everyone, just a part of the roster that I feel comfortable enough to talk about. So let's get into it. First things first, some universal mechanics. I would like to nerf EX moves in general for one, because currently I think that the reward you get off raw EX moves is a little too crazy. Basically everything gives you a full combo at this point. So what I would like to happen is to make these EX moves that give you full combos and are in full and everything, to not allow you to build meter back after them if you use them raw. Some characters actually need EX moves for their combos to get the best possible damage, so it should still work by a timer if it's mid combo. But raw EX moves like EX Lariats or stuff like that, I don't think should allow you to build back the meter that you spend on them and more. Because there's no incentive to not use them, I suppose. You can kind of just always throw them out. And if you had to actually think about the meter you spend on them as a factor more, I think that would be interesting. I think it would make gameplay a little more interesting. Next up, I would like some sparking mechanics to be addressed, notably sparking Super Dash, because I think the way it works right now is more of a detriment than a benefit. In particular because it just fucks up some characters' combos really bad. Baseku here, really good example. Let's take a look at an optimal rejump of his. Like this. If you do that while in sparking, there's a good chance that it will make it drop. Let's see if I can get it here. As you can see, if you delay Super Dash too much, it will just do that, lower Baseku to the ground, and fuck up his combo. I don't think that should be a thing, because it just makes combos even harder than they should be. And besides this being a thing, just landing raw Super Dash against a grounded opponent, keeping them grounded, I think that's just unnecessary. It makes comebacks even easier than they already are, because there's already a bajillion comeback mechanics. And honestly, it probably fucks up people's Super Dash confirms more often than not. I really think that sparking Super Dash could do without this weirdness it has going on. We also have to talk about Spark Empty Vanish, of course. I think this is a pretty dumb thing to be able to do, because it puts an opponent into a scramble that is heavily in the favor of the person who sparked, and it just feels like, okay, I sparked, now I win neutral and I get to use my strongest mix on you. And I think that's a bit much, just because you use the defensive option to be able to do that. I think that if you spark, you should be locked out of Empty Vanish for a couple of seconds. It's as simple as that. Next up, I would like air guard cancels to be removed, because they're basically useless, and using them honestly just gets you in trouble more often than not if you accidentally happen to do it, because like, look at this. Krillin is dead Like, I just cannot think of a useful situation to use air guard cancel in. It just kinda kills you to use it more often than not, so just take it out, honestly. Another thing I would like to be changed universally is for Beam Super Dash to stop being a thing on Whiff, and I'll just let this speak for itself. That's an example of an interaction that Beam Super Dash on Whiff just completely fucks up. It's very prone to fucking up opponent punishes that they deserved. And yes, you could say there's ways to deal with it consistently. Like for example doing JM2H or something. But I still think that given the somewhat scrambly nature of this game, it's very easy to do some punishes late to mess up some things. Or to try a Super Dash punish, and for your Super Dash to just clash with the one that they did after the beam, which is like dumb. And there's also instances where an opponent might fire a beam upwards, you look to 2M them, and then they'll just low crush you with Super Dash. It's just annoying as hell, and I don't see any reason why this is a good thing. I think it should be gone. Only make Super Dash come out on block or on hit. Another mechanic that I want gone from the game, though this one is very much just wishful thinking, I don't want there to be auto combos on Whiff anymore, like at all. I think it should be possible if the opponent is in hit stun to be able to do it, because some characters' combos feature like 5L with 5LL in the middle of them. But yeah, I don't want auto combos on Whiff at all. And I also, if they're not gonna change that about them, I at least want them to not turn around to autocorrect in the middle of them. So that's a thing. And also it would be nice if they weren't like fully invincible, like for example Trunks' 5LLL or Janemba's, or anti-airs like Gogeta's here or Bardock's. I think that's just really degenerate, that encourages some pretty stupid things, so I would like those to go away. Now for the elephant in the room of mechanics, meter nerfs. Let's talk about those. I want the characters that got a 25% meter nerf, like the ones on the left side of the screen right now, to get it taken away from them. Because I just think it's unnecessary. Like, they either don't care. Zamasu doesn't really care about the meter nerf, he's still obnoxiously strong. But Janemba and Hit, who I don't think are particularly broken, just get hurt by it for no discernible reason. If you're gonna nerf these characters, I think there's other ways to do it, if you must anyway. I think Janemba and Hit are fine. Zamasu, you could nerf his dumbass 2H, but I'm gonna talk about that later. Just 25% meter nerfs shouldn't exist. I really don't think they have to be a thing. Now for the 50% meter nerfs. I have a bit of a hot take on this, I think. I believe that Lab Coat and Gogeta Blue in particular deserve it. I don't like meter nerfs either, but let me explain. So, the main reason is these characters are very hard to nerf otherwise, without just completely gutting them. A lot of people say about meter nerfs that they were a lazy way to change these characters, that they should just nerf the things about them that make them ridiculous. And I would be all for that if I could think of something to nerf about them that would meaningfully affect them and just not kill them. I'm gonna go over each of these two. So, Lab Coat. As you might know, Lab Coat was literally designed to be top tier. her toolkit is just completely absurd. And because of that, she has gotten hit with a lot of nerfs over the years. And for the most part of her life, she still remained basically top 1 or maybe top 3 at worst. And even now, she is the only 50%er that's still widely considered top 10, just because her kit is too insane. So, assuming her meter nerf is taken away, you'd have to compensate by nerfing a different aspect of her kit, but how do you tone her down without completely gutting her? Let's remember, they tried with her spins multiple times. They nerfed those. They nerfed her command grab super, they nerfed her assists, her super damage, and those among other things, and nothing worked. She still remained really good. So touching down just 1 or 2 things will still keep her really strong. And I fear that if we go on the path of nerfing everything about her again, it will just destroy her. I genuinely can't see a normal way to fix her. I remember some saying that her pressure should be nerfed, but like, how do you do that? Multi-hit normals are extremely good for pressure. I remember Inzem saying that her mediums should be -6. But even then, she has so much to work with. And you can't nerf too much about her mix either because almost all of it is mental stack. This move is 27 frames, this move is 24 frames. Point blank, there we go. So if you nerf those too much, they become practically useless. I guess if anything, you could make her not have an 8 frame 2M to use for her 50/50s, but other than that, I really don't know how you would nerf her without having her either remain top tier or just be trash. There is something about her that I think should be changed though, and that is being able to combo off this with 5L. I don't think any other character in the game can combo off their frame 1 anti-air like this, so I don't think she should be able to do that. You're free to disagree with me on that because it has weaknesses of its own, like, you know, reflectable block stun and all that. But yeah, I think she should at least have to use Stomp to combo off this instead of just getting it for free. Other than that, I think that lab coat being 50% meter nerfed is okay. Oh, and also I would actually like her B assist to be adjusted so that the barrier spawns a little more in front of your point character. Because if you compare it to, for example, 18A, you may notice 18 spawns a little more in the front, and this can actually make a pretty big difference. Just to show it off here, I'm gonna call both assists in the same situation with roughly the same timing. Hold on. 18 blocks. 21 doesn't really until much later. So I would just make it spawn in the same spot that 18A does. Gogeta Blue. This guy's really controversial. So if this guy gets his meter nerf taken away, in my opinion, he has basically no real weakness. Now hear me out. The character is known for being committal in nature because a lot of his moves are terrible on whiff and all that, and his stagger pressure is pretty bad because cancel windows are pretty small on his mediums, and they're also super negative and all that. But his strengths far outweigh those weaknesses, especially when you consider how easy it is to cover those weaknesses because, like, what do you need? You put a defensive assist behind him, and basically any other assist that can work for his broken mix, and then you're good to go. Now you're left with a character that has degenerate neutral, absurd damage, absurd mix, even strong defense with these DPs. And also DP Spark as an option select he can do naturally. He also has pretty solid assists, the most consistent special tag move in the game, incredible supers, and on top of all that, is extremely easy to play in general. So how do you go about nerfing him without completely ruining him? If you have any ideas, let me know, but as of right now, I think him being meter nerfed is okay. Maybe put him at like 25%, I guess. But yeah, that's what I think of him. Actually, I did think of a couple of things that I would like adjusted about him though. So, nerf his JS hit stun, just revert it to what it was before, for one. Because respectfully, this shouldn't be a thing. Comboing like that off his meterless TP. I don't think that should be a thing. And for combos and such, he has J2S to use instead, so it's not a problem. I really don't think that kind of shit should be a thing. But on the other hand, I want this move to be buffed somehow, some way or another. Because I've always thought it's too cool to be basically useless, honestly. I don't know what you could do with it. I guess you could make it recover faster or something. So it has more neutral applications and mix applications, but I think they should do something with it. Because, like, come on. Look at that. It's so sick. Okay, Vegito, the last one of them. I think this guy can actually get his meter nerf taken away, because he has pretty well-defined weaknesses now, in that his mix-up isn't the best. He has some stuff mid-screen, but in the corner you don't really have much of a threat to use with him. And his assist spread isn't the best, which feels wild to say now, but you know, A assist nerf and all that. His damage output is also surprisingly below average now, at least from my labbing of him and other characters. But yeah, if he got his meter back in the current state he's in, I don't think he would be as much of a problem as he was before, primarily because they crushed his A assist too. What I would do though for him, I would actually give him a couple of quote-unquote buffs. Honestly, I think these would count more as quality of life adjustments. I would give his A assist just the tiniest smidge more hit stun, just so that you can like JDR at the end of combos with it, just so it's like usable at least in that regard. I would like his counter to be inescapable once you trigger it. Right now, if you trigger this counter, you can reaction vanish out of it and avoid being punished. No other counter in the game works like that, so I think that this should just be inescapable if you trigger it, like every other one. And finally, I think that JS into J214M should always connect at the end of combos. If JS hits, so should J214M, just because it would help him with meter management a little bit. Alright, so now that the meter nerfed characters are out of the way for the most part, I'm gonna talk about other character specific changes I want to see, and I'm gonna start with UI Goku. So first things first, this should be completely auto-timed like every other beam. The super dash should be automatic. It should come out at the earliest possible point after all 5 hits of the beam land. Currently, you can super dash out of it really early, and it's really more of a detriment than a benefit. It doesn't help his combos at all, it doesn't help his hit stun decay or anything. It's just bad, and you have to manually delay this in order to get the most damage. But also, late in combos, if you delay 236S, if you delay the super dash after it too much, that's what might actually mess up your hit stun decay or just make you drop your combo. because you just wait longer than you should until you can super dash it. So yeah, this auto-timed. Next, one of UI Goku's moves that has been disputed for a pretty long time because of the changes it got last patch, 6S. Before going into combo utility, I want to talk about the neutral utility that it could potentially have, but it doesn't. So you can use this to deflect ki blasts, but you cannot cancel out of it. You might have seen me input 214L there. You can't special cancel it even if it deflects ki blasts, and I think you should be able to, because it would give it some interesting neutral applications. Of course, I would also like its effect on hits to be adjusted, because as you may know, it's really awkward for corner combos right now because it can do that. And it's very prone to doing that. Making both hits of it land properly is honestly a lot more difficult than it has any right to be for the damage UI Goku does. So what I want is for 6S to vacuum towards the middle of it, instead of just sending opponents backwards. Because that way it would be more consistent for corner combos and still keep the new mid-screen utility it has now, which you can see here, which is pretty neat. So he gets to keep that, and he gets more consistent corner combos. That's what I want for it. And another thing that they could possibly do is to just make 6S not have 2 hits before he fires off the projectiles, because the second hit is worthless. It only exists to make his combos more difficult. I have no idea why it's there. Just make it 1 hit and 2 projectiles and call it a day. Next up, UI Goku's 5S. So right now, as you can see, UI Goku's 5S clashes with smaller projectiles, or just outright loses to Z Broly's apparently. So it clashes with smaller ki blasts and it should go through them, like Jiren's 5S. That is one way that you could change it. The other way that I'm thinking of is to just make it faster. Make it start up faster. I don't think you could do both, because if this move was projectile info and super fast, it might be a little too crazy. But if it was just faster, it would serve as a better whiff punish tool. He would have more options in mid-range neutral, and also it would help his combos, because faster speeds would mean it would connect at higher hit stun decay and it wouldn't take up as much combo time and all that. So yeah, either make it like Jiren's or make it start up faster. I would also like this move to be solo comboable. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be. And I think that this should be sped up a bit. It's 28 frames startup point blank. That is really slow. And I think that if it got a few frames shaved off it, like if it was, I don't know, 24 frame startup or something like that, it would make it a little more usable in neutral and such. You'll basically never see this otherwise. UI Goku is also in desperate need of better level 3 Oki, because on top of the fact that it leaves opponents full screen away, just check this out. He cannot get a meaty safe jump off it, even with like a moon jump fast fall. That is kinda ridiculous. I think that he should have a little more frame advantage to work with after his level 3, so that he at least gets that meaty safe jump. To get more into his meterless combos, I want this to work mid-screen. I'm showing it off on Broly just because I couldn't on anyone else. It's a blue combo as well. But I want 5H to give a bigger bounce, so that I can whiff 236L and then dash 5L after it mid-screen. This is because his meterless combos mid-screen are pretty ass otherwise, and also routes using this link actually aren't optimal anymore. So his damage with it would be alright to get that meterless. It would improve it considerably. Another thing I would like is for Chu's Super Dash to work mid-screen, so that he can do stuff like this. There we go. I think that would be another nice little boost to his damage. Okay, corner combos. So most importantly, I'm gonna need UI Goku's J2H to swing him higher upwards. This is because one of his most prominent combo enders actually isn't universal and tends to just drop for no reason sometimes. I'm referring to this. The whole double JL M2H thing, that ender. That's not universal because it drops on Cooler and C Broly always. I couldn't get this to work on either of them no matter how hard I tried. And on other characters it will just randomly drop and randomly work. I don't know what's up with it. But to make it consistent across the cast, UI Goku's J2H should swing him higher upwards. I think that's the solution to that. Because his corner damage is also pretty lackluster, I would like him to be able to link 5H into 5L here, which would get him to like 5.6k damage at best, which I'm gonna show off here real quick. And I think this is pretty reasonable numbers, honestly. His metered damage with the other buffs that I want to give him would actually go past 6k. So you'd still have incentive to use meter if you really want damage, and meterless you'd still deal a pretty decent amount. Speaking of metered combos, I would like UI's Shu36H to allow him to get an IAD JM there, because it would boost his metered damage as well as his corner carry. And to show off an example blue combo here, this is already very close to breaking 6k and very close to going true corner to corner with Oki. If you can add an IAD JM at the start of that, that will easily break past 6000 and it will actually get into the corner with Oki. So I think that summarizes the combo changes I want for him. As a quick side note, some changes that I don't want for his combo game, but others have suggested them. They said that 236S should link into 5L in the corner, but I don't think that's the right way to go, because that would actually push his damage at like 6k meterless, which would be pretty insane for him, and he'd no longer have an incentive to spend meter on his combos at all. And even if it was just 6S, that would still result in pretty high numbers. That was off raw 5H, add a couple of mediums on there and you definitely get to 6000. So yeah, I think that just letting 5H link into 5L and letting him stay under 6000 meterless would be healthier for him. Actually, there's a couple of other things that I almost forgot to mention. I would like his lariats to never drop at any hit stun decay, because they're hit grabs and no other hit grab in the game drops ever midway through. If I do a combo on the longer end here, you may notice that the hit grab drops at the end for some reason, as you can see. And I think that's pretty dumb, because I've already said why. Other hit grabs don't drop like that, and it would be nice for him to always have that ender available, because it makes his level 1 keep the corner and it may help with synergy and such. So just let him have that. And the other thing I was gonna mention This one's just for cool points, but I want his command grab to work in the middle of combos, so that he could end combos with like this into this, and then Dragon Rush after and everything, like so. I think it would just be pretty cool looking. It would boost his assisted damage a little bit, but it wouldn't be too egregious. I think it would be pretty sick if he had that. Finally, a couple of ideas to buff UI Goku's pressure, because I think he also needs a little help in that regard. Mainly, I want him to get a slight range buff on Chu-M, because anti-reflex with it are weirdly inconsistent. As you can see, sometimes it works, and there will be times that it just doesn't for some reason, like right there. I don't think it has anything to do with dash momentum, because I'm always getting dash momentum here, you might have noticed. But yeah, that's a thing. And it's also more likely to miss against characters with thinner hurt boxes, like, for example, Zamasu here. He's got a pretty thin hurt box, but there you go. A slight range buff on the Chu-M would go a long way, I think, just to make those anti-reflex more consistent. And another thing I would like is for the second hit of his 5M to be optional, so that you could stop at the first hit and then press like a 4M or something to make the second part of it come out optionally. Not only would this give him another like a potential frame trap or true string low, or just another part to his pressure to put together, it would also make his 5M an actual usable poke in neutral if he could only do the first hit of it. Besides that, I think there's like 2 ways you could continue to buff his pressure. You could improve his frame data, like you could make his 5L a little less unsafe. Honestly, I think -9 is a bit much, even with the pushback it has. Chu-M, one of his worst buttons, is -7. It honestly wouldn't be a problem to me if it was a better stagger point. And yeah, stuff like that, buff his frame data, or you could buff his flip options to be faster, so that they're harder to deal with. In general, I want UI Goku's mental stack to be stronger, because that's like his whole thing. And with that, I think that's all the ideas I have for UI Goku changes. Moving on to Beerus, my favorite character in the game. I'm just gonna get straight to the point here, because this really annoys me here. So this shouldn't be a thing. This weird sour spot near the corner where Beam Super Dash never works, I want this to disappear, because this can actually lose you games, dropping combos because of this. It's happened to me, it sucked, it got me real upset. This should be fixed somehow, I'm not sure how. I guess you could expand the part of the beam that gives you the extra hit stun, like this. I guess you could just expand it to be just a little closer to Beerus. But yeah, one way or another, this shit needs to go. It's the worst. It makes me really mad. But anyway, rant about that over. Let's talk about neutral buffs, because everyone ever talks about this character's neutral being terrible. I'd like to get one important thing out of the way. My belief with this character is that his neutral should not be too good. He should not have strong neutral, just because he has absurd reward of everything. Like, he gets to freely convert off things like this that other characters cannot, and he just gets a bajillion damage off every stray hit. And yeah, that's basically it. I don't want his neutral to be too potent. And that is also why I'm against the widespread idea that he should get a protagonist 2M trademarked. I don't think he should get a 2M like the other Gokus, just because it would make his mid-range presence too crazy. And I would rather not get guaranteed TOD'd from like half screen away by this asshole. He is a robbery character, and I don't think it would be healthy to make it even easier for him to rob you in neutral. That being said, there are a couple things that I want to see for his neutral. I would like this move to have less whiff recovery. Not too much less, because it's vanish cancelable on whiff, and it's also delay cancelable and all that. Those are privileges. But one of these is more negative on whiff than like Majin 21's air ball or 236M, and I think that's pretty goofy. So I think these key blasts should have a little less recovery on whiff, but not too much less. Like minus 40 or something, I guess, would be fine, in my opinion. I also think increasing the range on his 5H and his 236L would give him an adequate mid-range neutral boost, because 5H is fairly slow at 14 frames, or more if it hits meaty like that, and 236L is a special. This would also give him more options after reflecting a move, because typically, if the opponent just stops here, let me make this actually play. Whoa there. Let me try this again. Sorry that it takes me a bit. But yeah, if you reflect there and you do like 5H or 236L, it will not reach opponents, and it may get you killed if they stop there, while other characters have like a special or a normal that will still reach from this range. You could use 236H, but that's also fairly slow. Okay, you can stop doing that. So yeah, I just think having a 5H or 236L get a range buff would help him both defensively and in his mid-range to a level that's not too crazy for him. Another thing about 2SS that I want changed is the tracking. I think it's just not quite good enough sometimes. It may sometimes whiff even if you pick the right direction. Like in this case, I picked 2, it whiffs, I picked 3, it still whiffs. There's these weird blind spots, and this not only has potential to mess up his neutral, but also some conversions. Like if you wanted to do this, you couldn't, no matter what, because the tracking just ain't good enough. Even basic shit like this can sometimes be messed up if you don't delay the right amount, as you can see. Just make the tracking on those better. I think they should be able to cover a little more space than they currently do. Next up, I would like the invulnerability on Beisku's elbows to be fixed, because I'll also let this speak for itself. This is not how reversals should function. I don't think that's correct. Yeah, I think that speaks for itself well enough. It's also a lot more prominent with 236M for Beisku to get hit out of it, even though you basically only can use 236M for the reversal purposes. You sure as hell aren't using this slow thing in combos or neutral. But yeah, I want the invuln on these to last all the way until active frames. Going back to combo buffs now, for one, I would like this knockdown to be long enough to get a Genki charge and also get Kaioken. Like also have enough time to land Kaioken 5S. I think it would be really nice for him to have, because he would still have to sacrifice some damage for it, because True SSS Ender isn't always accessible, and it would help with getting his unique resource while still securing a kill. I think it would be nice if he had that. It's not as much of a buff as it is a quality of life change, in my opinion. Another thing I would like is for him to be able to late cancel his J2M into Genki charge. So that way he can choose between safe jump Oki or getting a Genki charge but much worse Oki. I think it would make sense for him to have that. And speaking of Genki, I think that this should have less recovery. Minus 41 is kind of insane. I think it could stand to have a few frames less, like I don't know, minus 35 or something. I just want it to be somewhat safe to get a Genki charge from a distance, which is where Baseku often plays from. Just so it's easier for him to access his unique resource. Like, Genki is really strong for him, so he should be able to maximize his access to it, I think. Next up, I would like the hitbox on his 5S to be expanded upwards a little bit, just to make this Ender more consistent at high hit stun decay. At higher levels of hit stun decay, it's still possible, but just really difficult, because the delay between 2M and 5S gets really tight, and so landing all 5 key blasts gets really hard, much harder than it rightfully should be, in my opinion. So just expand the hitbox upwards on that, and I think it'll be good to go. Lastly, I would like this to be a consistent combo ender across the cast. If you do that at high hit stun decay, like I'm gonna show here, it will drop on Krillin, Videl, and probably other characters that I'm not aware of. Probably because their hitbox is too small or something, but yeah, there you go. If you heard the sound mod on the Spirit Bomb, don't mind that. But yeah, I'm gonna need that Ender to be consistent across the cast, please. For his B assist, I have a pretty crazy buff idea, and that is to let you be able to choose whether to charge the Genki or to throw it. Being able to do the latter would make the assist really good for neutral, and it would have some interesting combo applications. You couldn't really use it traditionally, but it would still have like ages of hit stun and pretty high damage for an assist. Of course, the bomb throw shouldn't build the meter that it normally does, that would be way too much. And to balance out the neutral, how strong it is for neutral, I think it should have a little block stun to work with. And that way, he will have a wider spread of assists. A assists will be the fast mid-range poke with lots of block stun, and B assist will be the neutral god assist for more character-specific combos and such. I think it would be nice for him to have something like that. The other characters that I'm gonna talk about will have shorter sections, because I just don't have as much to say about them as my favorites. But anyway, Goku Black. I think this guy is already super solid, just needs to be more consistent in a couple of small things. Namely, God Slicer should not drop at high hit stun decay if the first portion of it connects. If I do an example combo here to show off what I mean, just real quick, probably not optimal or whatever, but you know, you get the idea, you saw it happen. I think that's really fucking stupid. I don't think God Slicer should drop if the Ki Blasts connect. So just, I don't know, buff the Ki Blast portion of it, buff the hit stun on that, or just do anything for it to work properly. Other than that, I want a hit stun increase on JS, so that his cross-ups are more consistent, like his cross-up conversions. You saw that? JS-5M didn't combo. Because you have to delay JS a very specific amount for some reason. And this can drop you combos, this can lose you games. So increase the hit stun on JS, so you don't have to delay it as much or at all in order to be able to get dash 5M. And also it would be nice if he was able to do this. If he could do JS J236M mid-screen at low hit stun decay, that would be nice because his meterless mid-screen combos are really just whatever. Super Saiyan Goku. I think he only needs a couple of quality of life changes. Those being making his flurry kicks actually vacuum, or just give them like a cinematic effect, because they have a tendency to sometimes drop midway through like this, and it's pretty annoying when it happens. So I think that if one part connects, the rest should also connect. And secondly, I want his 236H to actually work properly as a reversal, because right now, as you can see, hold on, as you can see here, it doesn't really. It's very situational at best. So I think if Super Saiyan Goku got those changes, he would be in a perfect spot. Now for Android 17. I actually don't have too much to say in terms of specific buff ideas for him, because frankly, adjusting this character is a fucking nightmare. I can't figure out how to do it, and let me tell you, his Discord server discusses it like all the time. For very long periods of time. He's a very confusing character to balance, honestly. But I'm gonna say my piece, what I think. So for one, the Power Blitz release projectiles for 17, I think should have bigger hitboxes. Because contrary to what some might think, they don't track, they just travel at a weird trajectory. But they're honestly pretty prone to missing, as far as I've played him anyway. And also, there's something annoying in that in his combos, it will sometimes whiff like that, and that's just really dumb. So the hitboxes on that should be bigger. I also think that this character should be buffed on point somehow. Like on the screen, not in the back bringing support or whatever, like where he is right now. He needs some buffs because he has no special tag tool, or at least not a good one. Nothing allows him to do tag JDR. His neutral is super lackluster, and some moves like this, like acrobatic assault and also Rekka feints, should be worth using in neutral in my opinion, because they would just flesh out his character identity a little more as a Rekka character, as a Speedy Boy character, but they just aren't really worth using. They're not good enough for that. And I also think that he's got a bit of a conflicting nature going on, because he wants assists for everything. He wants assists for neutral, he wants assists for mix, he wants assists for combos, basically everything. And let's go over the whole battery thing real quick. A lot of people say about 17 that he builds a shit ton of meter, and he does. He definitely does, but only if he can spend assists for it. And when you consider that 17 wants to spend assists on so many other things besides just like combos and stuff, you realize, you know, maybe he's not that good at enabling his team actually. His solo combos are very whatever. He basically just gets BNBs. And he can get better stuff by going into EX barrier here with some meter, but that takes meter, and then he no longer acts like the battery he's supposed to be. So I guess that's basically what I'm trying to say, that he should be more self-sufficient and he should actually be able to act like a battery in my opinion. However, if the character is going to get buffed on point, I think that his A assist should get nerfed, to the surprise of absolutely no one. I'm sure you know all about how stupid this thing is, but I'm gonna go over it anyway. So defensive assists, I think, are the meta in the game right now, because they just allow you to go swinging, and if you whiff, you just call the assist and get a full combo on the opponent who whiff punished you. Just dumb degenerate stuff. But 17A does more than that, because it also is a block stun assist, because it gives you 35 whole frames of block stun to work with. It's also a combo assist, because it gives you a massive wall bounce. And it also has the special benefits of a barrier assist, because you can do a 5L Dragon Rush with a barrier assist on top of you, which is a pretty cursed mix-up. And it also invalidates guard cancels, which further strengthens the mix-up utility of it. It just does way too many things at once. So, what I would personally nerf about it is the block stun. And I would go as far as giving it like sub 20 frames block stun. It should be difficult to use this assist for mix-ups, because I think that's a big part of what makes it so broken. I think that's why, well, it's not the whole reason why, but it's a big part of why it's so degenerate, because on top of getting it to use it defensively, you also get to just do neutral skips into 50-50 with it. Just dumb shit like that. I don't want that. I think it should stick to just being purely defensive, and I guess for combos usable too. I don't think that's a big problem, because you know, it's not the only defensive assist in this game that's cracked. There's also other DP assists that have like ages of hit stun and whatnot. But yeah, what I would nerf about 17A is the block stun by a lot. However, hot take, I also think that the barrier assists, I think that the projectile part should only come out if nothing connects with the barrier. And you might think I'm crazy for that, but it can actually happen pretty often that the opponent just keeps smashing through the assist and wins, because the barrier invulnerability goes away for a bit as 17 prepares to fire his projectile. So if he just doesn't fire the projectile at all when the barrier gets triggered, it would be just as consistent defensively as other barrier assists like 18A. So that's what I think of it. And lastly, this shouldn't exist. Full screen fucking auto combos like this shouldn't exist, and 17 also gets a fucking mix-up of his. This. It's a fuzzy blockable mix-up. There's a 5 frame difference between the options, but you sure as hell aren't gonna be prepared for getting hit with that mix-up from fucking full screen away, man. Just take that away. Take away every full screen auto combo for all I care. I hate that shit. As Broly, another character that I'm really fond of. I actually think he's pretty close to being the best version of himself he can be, but he needs quite a few things still. Some weird inconsistencies or things that make no sense. Like for example, his 5H armor. His 5H armor, for some reason, loses to projectiles. Unlike fucking Z Broly's here. Let me show it off just for the sake of it. And if he fucking 5H's, just goes right through it. And 5H, S Broly's 5H also loses to lows. And that's pretty painful, especially if you want to use the armor properties of it to prevent mashing or neutral bullshittery like run up 2Ms. So yeah, I think the armor on it should be fixed. I think the forward movement on 2H should not be a thing. I think it should just be stationary, because more often than not, the way he steps forward makes Super Dash just go behind him, and it fucking hurts. Next, I would like there to be an incentive to use these stomps. Besides just beating mashing, which you could do with other frame traps anyway. Right now, you can just jump out of these if S Broly does them. It's very easy to escape them. So the only reason an S Broly player would do these is to dare you to do something. To be like, dude, look what I'm getting away with, what are you doing? Challenge me, do something. But I feel like they could be cooler than that. I feel like there could be a different incentive to use multiple of them, while still having these risks attached. A common suggestion I've seen is to make each successive stomp have better frame data than the other, and I think I could get behind something like that, but I want something to be done about them. I would also like his mediums to be sped up by just a couple of frames, like frame 12 or something. Especially because 5M at least also has a fair bit of travel distance here, and is still super negative. Yeah, I think it would be fair to make these start up in 12 frames, especially if we compare them to other huge medium starters. And also his 5L. I think his 5L could either be faster at like 8 frames, or it should scale like a medium. There's other buttons that are better than this and scale like mediums, honestly. And yeah, to do something about this too. And finally, I think S Broly's A assist should be way faster, like way faster. I think honestly his B assist right now is just better all around, it's just superior. And this is actually not as good as a beam, not only because of its slowness, but because if the opponent backdashes it from full screen, the shockwave won't reach. It only goes the distance of a screen, it doesn't go past the full screen distance, if that makes sense. And it also just doesn't clash with other projectiles. So I think it could at least stand to be a lot faster than 35 frame startup. Moving on to Bluku. This request might be a bit controversial, but I wish for his elbow, his True 36L, to do a little more damage raw, like a little more raw damage, so that his loops do a little more damage. I think that Bluku is weirdly outclassed in damage right now, unless he does like the most optimal loops possible, which is kind of ridiculous to ask out of most players. So I can give an example here of an optimal combo of 2L 2M with Bluku and one from Gogeta Blue, just to show off the difference. So as you could see, there's characters in this game that can reach Bluku's optimal loops damage with comparatively much easier combos, and also probably building more meter than him and not having to end with an EX move. So I just think that buffing the damage on his shoulder here a bit would reward the efforts put into his loops more properly. However, I also believe that some aspect of his pressure needs to be nerfed. And I mean seriously needs it. Some of you might think I'm crazy for saying that, but let me explain. Quite simply, this character has basically every possible pressure tool that a character could have, anything that you could possibly ever want. And I'm gonna go over each of them. He has a decent amount of safe buttons with good frame data that he can use for staggered pressure. He has a low 5LL. He has a cross-up button that cannot be 2H'd, and also doubles as a safe jump that beats frame 1 anti-airs. He has a same side fake out option in his dive kick. He has a very powerful DR crush in 236H. He has quite possibly the best command grab in the game in this. If I can get it to land properly, there we go. And on top of all that, he has dive kick mix, which with the right assists I'm pretty sure is basically a 4-way. And also he has a level 3 with a lot of corner carry and really strong mix-up Oki. So this character once again has everything, and I think that's kind of insane. So some aspect of his pressure should be toned down a bit. Blue Vegeta I don't have much to say about really. It's pretty obvious what's bullshit with him. First of all, remove this. He should not be able to whiff cancel his 2S, that's really stupid. He shouldn't just be correct even when he's wrong. Remove this. He shouldn't be able to do 2 big bangs here. It's just way too much damage. And finally, remove guard point on this goofy ass Disney World ass move. It's too much, just remove it. Zamasu I also don't have terribly much to say about. I just want his flight nerfed. I think it should either last less time, or it should be slower because this dude is fast as hell. If it's gonna get its duration nerfed, I think it should last like 5 seconds. I know it's a lot from 10 seconds to 5, but like, it's really strong, he's really fast during it, F6S is super impressive, and like, what would you need 10 seconds for other than to stall your opponent for like forever? I don't think you should be able to stall out an entire sparking timer. I think that's really stupid. Or if he's going to, he should be easy to chase down, hence the alternative of just making him slower. But yeah, nerf his flight, and also nerf his 2H. This thing should not be projectile and assist invulnerable. I don't know who thought that up, but just remove that, just make it a normal 2H, it's fine. That's it. You know exactly why this guy is here. Nerf this. Immediately. Either remove the frame 4 full invuln on it, or make the move scale like DBs. Like, make it scale like a reversal would and not like a fucking medium starter. That's about it really though. Bardock, this poor guy. He just can't escape being bottom tier apparently. Just kidding, I actually think he's like low mid tier personally, but in any case, what I want for him is to be able to solo convert this move. I don't want it to be projectile invulnerable because it's just way too fast for that, in my opinion. Or I guess if you want to make it projectile invuln, keep it like this, don't let it solo convert. Like, lariats have, most lariats have projectile invuln and solo convertibility, but they don't have the fastest fucking speed in the game. 14 frames full screen, 6 frames point blank. Like, that is extremely fast. That is a privilege to have. So I think either make it solo convertible, that's what I would personally prefer, or give it projectile input. If you're gonna make it solo comboable, I think it would be nice for it to be... hold on. I think it would be nice if it worked like this, and just let you get 5LL from here, so that he has another option after 5H. Because his conversions of 5H are really poor in general, and he would also get something mid-screen of 236S. Something like that I think would be nice, but alternatively, it could just give a massive wall bounce that would allow you to convert off it mid-screen like that. I would also like it if his 236M did more damage. Despite the fact that his combos got basically reinvented last patch, I don't think Bardock does the most damage, so just giving it that little boost by improving raw 236M damage would help him out in that department. My last suggestion for Bardock would be to improve his level 3 Oki and give him a little more frame advantage to work with because of this. Mid-screen, he cannot even get a meaty safe jump. Like, that is pretty ass. So yeah, it would be nice if he got a longer knockdown of it. Alternatively, I've heard some people suggest that he gets his old level 3 mix back. The 4-way or whatever it was. I wasn't around for those times. But I wouldn't be opposed to the idea, but personally I feel like it would be a little much now. Bardock doesn't struggle in the mix-ups department as much as people like to think, in my opinion. At least not anymore, because mid-screen, he is able to pretty easily left-right you using J236M now. He can even true string into a left-right that beats 2H with the right assists now. And in the corner, he always has access to Super Dash 50/50s. So I really don't think he's doing that bad in the mix department to where he would need a fucking level 3 4-way. But that's just me. If he got it, I wouldn't be upset about it. But yeah, his level 3 Oki definitely needs improvements regardless. Kefla. For Kefla, I've got 2 quality of life changes that I want to see, but also a nerf. So I'm gonna talk about the nerf first. This shouldn't be a thing. I really don't think her 236L deserves to jail into Super Dash. It's too potent. That's like Gogeta Blue levels of mix with fucking 9 frame 2M. I don't like that. I don't think she needs that. She is already very strong without something broken like this. I really would like to take that away from her. Okay, so for this move, I was gonna say this move shouldn't drop like at high hit stun decay. For a while it's had the Goku Black God Slicer issue, where the first half would connect and the second would drop at hit stun decay too high. But after labbing a little bit and trying to find a combo that pushed things far enough for that to happen, I honestly couldn't find one. As you can see here, that's about as much as I can do without J8 dropping for the assist call, and 236S still landed. So I don't know if this was like shadow changed or whatever, or just no one told me about it. If it still has the God Slicer problem, fix it. If it doesn't, then well, good. The other quality of life change I want for this character is for this move to let you get JDR after it, like every other Hell Zone. It's not often seen for Oki, probably because this move exists, as well as just good old safe jumps. and it's practically useless for combos as it is right now. So I think that if it could be used as a combo ender, like, I don't know, call assist, ground shoot to 6S into Hell Zone, and then super dash JBR, I think that would be pretty neat for her to have. Krillin, once again, don't have a lot to say about him. Just, this thing should not be invulnerable in any capacity. Just remove the frame 4 invuln it has, and call it a day. I think you'll be fine after that. Lord Beerus. First things first, this thing, make it go away. Just this move 2M, I really don't think it deserves to be projectile invulnerable in any way, even if it's inconsistent against beams and Ki Blast volleys. I have to put it bluntly, I do not care. I think this shit is stupid and degenerate, even for the standards of this game, and should not be a thing. Other than that, I would also revert the recovery of his level 3, because like, minus 20 on whiff, what the fuck even? So 13 frames of recovery, that's literally as much as his jab. That is ridiculous. This thing should be universally punishable, like it always was before it got this weird change. And finally, I think his A assist needs to be toned down, because it's another case that just does too many things at once. You can use it for neutral control, you can use it for combos, it's extremely good for that. You can use it for unique mix-ups. Not much you can't use it for, so I think it would be fair to make it slower, so that it's not also like a top-tier panic call / defense assist. Lord Buller. So I want his double EXTP here to give a forced knockdown always. So like, even if you spent your sliding knockdown already, I think this move should always give you a forced knockdown, and I think you should be able to combo it into 214S as well. You're spending an entire bar on that thing, and I think maybe that should be rewarded with more than just like, I don't know, 150-ish extra damage. Now for the more controversial thing, this, the J2H mix. It currently only works on exactly half the cast, and I think that's pretty whack, so I believe that something should be done about it. Either make it actually universal, so that it's a huge threat, he always has, or just get rid of it entirely and make Cooler stick to working around his dive kick and universal options and stuff like that in his pressure. I'm not sure which way to go with it, but I personally don't like the way it is right now. Another thing that I want for Cooler is for his medium dive kick to be a little bit faster, like let's say 27-28 frames, because I think 30 frames is kind of insanely slow. And that also goes for his air dive kick. I honestly don't even see a use case for this. You can react to this mad easily, and it's also practically unusable in combos. So I think both versions could stand to be sped up a bit. And a couple more things. I think this button shouldn't go this far. It's basically full screen, 90% of the screen. And I think that's just way too much, considering it's -1 solo combo because it's a normal, jails into his beam and his quake, which in turn jail into vanish. I think it's just a bit much for it to travel this far, and he already has pretty big normals, as you know, like outside of it. So I think if it just traveled the original distance it went, it would be perfectly fine. And other than that, I think his Quake, his 214S, shouldn't drop at high hit stun decay, because it does that. I think it's the only OTG move that does that, besides like Android 16's 214S, but his is a multi-hitting move and he can end his combos with his light command grab, so it's like whatever. But yeah, I think Cooler's 214S should combo into his supers at any level of hit stun decay. That's it. Nappa the Clappa, it's your turn. This is fucking stupid and I want it gone. I don't think it should be like this in any way, shape or form. I don't think EX Cyberman should be the best character in the game. So, remove the fucking projectile invuln it has, or at least make it vulnerable to physical strike assists. And also don't let it just combo you by itself. That's kinda stupid, I don't like that. Moving on to Majin 21. More experienced players, or rather people that actually play her unlike me, because I'm not very knowledgeable of her, might have more wishes for her than me. But I just have one wish, and that is to give this thing a meaty safe jump, and nothing more. I don't want it to go back to what it was before, where it was just like an insane mix-up. Just give this a meaty safe jump. I believe that every level 3 in the game should have at the very least a meaty safe jump, and this isn't excluded in that. In exchange though, I think I would like her air level 3 to do more minimum damage. I think it does like 1800 now. Honestly, crank that shit up to 1900, because there should be some sort of incentive to use the air level 3 over the ground one. The ground one gives you a safe jump and steals. The air one gives you a lot more damage. I think that would be fair enough. I think that would make sense. Trunks, oh Trunks, how many patches in a row have you needed help? Okay, jokes aside, I think he's actually pretty decent, but he has some weird things about him that I don't understand. For instance, his 5M. His 5M is pretty short, and it's also -9 on block, which is kind of a lot. So I think that it could stand to be safe on block. I think it deserves that. What else? I think his 5L should reach further. Like, it needs to reach further. You cannot be plus in your opponent's face and not be able to reach them with your 5L. Well, you can with dash momentum. But yeah, this is kind of ridiculous to me. Yeah, I want his 5L to go a little further. I think his 5S should have a little bit more hit stun yet. It combos into beam, yes, at least from full screen, but it's still difficult to hit confirm in the heat of the moment, and that's a complaint that I've heard from Trunks players for ages now. It's very hard to hit confirm into Vanish, so I think it should be easier to do that. And also, JS is -50 on whiff. That is the same as Vegito's Spirit Sword, and I think that's kind of insane. I think it could stand to have a little less recovery. Speaking of plus frames earlier, I don't think this move should be 30 frames, that's way too slow. I think 27 frames would be fine. At least that's what I would set it to. Another weird thing about Trunks is that his Change the Future just loses to beams outright. Hold on, let me see if I can get it to work here. There we go. For some reason, instead of clashing with beam likes, it just outright loses to them, and I think that's bizarre. so that could get a little fix. I also think that his beam needs some sort of adjustment to make it like other beams for combos, because other beams will auto-time these rejumps for you, but not Trunks' beam. And this also applies in conversions like this. You have to manually delay your super dash to hit just the right timing for a rejump, and it's honestly really difficult. So I think that could also be fixed. I've been talking about Trunks buffs a lot, but there's actually something that I think should get nerfed about him as well, and that is of course this. I will never ever be a fan of this kind of shit. Just full screen, invincible, auto combos or special moves or whatever the hell. Just take this away from him, revert it to what it was like before, and I think it'll be perfectly fine that way. Finally, I would like to talk about his level 3, and while I'm a big fan of this funny little raging demon thing, I think that during combos, his level 3 should act like Beerus' level 3, in that he can make it teleport behind his opponent, so that way he always gets his left-right mix. It's a simple change, it would put him in line with other characters that have level 3s like this, so I say might as well. It's Piccolo's turn, and for him, I actually don't have any specific ideas. I just have a vague idea of what I think he needs, and that is neutral help and meter efficiency help. Piccolo, to my knowledge, is one of the scariest characters to block, because the guy is just mix upon mix upon mix. If he level 3s you, you're kinda guaranteed to get hit and die, so on and so forth, but actually getting in with him is an arduous journey, to say the least. He doesn't really have any gap closing tools outside of these if you count them. He doesn't have much to harass his opponents, harass them with from a range. This is like the best he has, I think. And this, which is a gimmick. So yeah, I think he needs neutral help, and I also think he needs to be a little more meter efficient, because he needs it for everything. He needs it to mix you with this move, he needs it to maximize his combo damage with hell zones, he needs it to secure a knockdown, he needs it for practically everything, and if he doesn't have it, he can't do anything almost. So those are the two things that I think he struggles with, but in terms of how to actually fix them, that's for the Piccolo players to let me know, because I don't really have any ideas. Adult Gohan. This guy is also controversial because of all the levels and stuff, his mechanics, whatever, but I have only a few ideas for him. So I think this character is cracked beyond belief, but I also think he's close to being a pretty healthy top tier, because he has to work to get in. Yes, he does have this, but against characters that, or just opponents in general that want him to stay away, he will have a very hard time making his way in, and I think that is a solid weakness to have. But anyway, what I would change about him, this, I think this shit needs to go. I think his JS should have a little more recovery, because right now it's just base Vegeta's JS, but it also moves in backwards. It's just probably the single most annoying keep away tool in the game. I hate it. And this, an absolutely insane tool for escaping pressure. I don't know what I would do about this. I guess also give it more recovery, but there needs to be some sort of drawback for abusing this. Next, I would change this. I don't think this should be a thing, comboing off his DP meterlessly, like when he's not level 7 or whatever. I don't think any character should be able to do that. And finally, I think it would be fair to reduce his incredible damage output somehow. First idea that came to mind for that is to just reduce the damage of his beam, because that's where most of it comes from. And now I'm also gonna talk about Ginyu a little bit actually. I'm not gonna pretend to know a lot about this character. I'm pretty much just as much in the dark about whatever the fuck he does as most people. But there are a couple things about him that I think are a bit suspect. In particular, this thing being a full screen medium starter lariat, I think is crazy for him, even if it's not projectile invulnerable. And why is that? Because this character excels at just filling the screen with a bunch of shit. And I don't think a character like that should also have a full screen lariat that's as powerful as this. And the other thing, I really don't think his B assists should build meter for you, like at all. It's already crazy enough that it brings out 2 Ginyu Force members for you. Just I think it's pretty goddamn unnecessary to let it also build you meter. So base Vegeta, okay. I would like him to have a 9 frame 236L. I think he deserves to have a good round start. I would like him to have more combo options mid-screen. Or at the very least, I think it would be really nice if his 214L in combos worked like base Goku's J2M, so that he could use it at higher levels of hit stun decay. And another thing I would like is for his JS to have less pushback in combos, so that mid-screen loops are more consistently doable and with more assists. That's about it. Time for Jiren. This guy's been quite a problem lately, hasn't he? 2L, I want this button to be slower. Like, I don't know, 9 frames or something like that would be reasonable, in my opinion. I want this to be like 11-12 frames of startup, so that he can't high-low you, or at least not make it true. And in exchange, I would like to buff his 5H. Buff the speed on this grab to like, I guess 24 frames, or if you wanna get crazy, 22, because it still has a pretty big tail to look out for. And why am I making these changes? Because 2L is a little too crazy, and because I want Jiren to continue to be the conditioning-based character that he was always meant to be, and less inclined to just 50-50 you over and over with his 2M and stuff. Next up is Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, and I've got a few words for him. This sequence, I don't think he should be able to do that. His pressure is already godlike without the 5H pushback and the whatever the fuck this is. So I would take those 2 things away from him. But honestly, I think that's about it. Android 16, I think, needs 2 changes. Well, there's others that probably want more, but these are 2 that I'm confident in saying he needs. And that is a higher hitbox on 5M, so that his rejumps are more consistent. Let's see here. That stuff is much harder to do on smaller characters, and in the corner rejumps just aren't possible at all because of that, pretty much. So make the 5M hitbox accurate to what it looks like. And I would also say buff his A assist, specifically its block stun. because right now it is painfully mediocre in every regard. And I think if this assist had good block stun, it would contrast his B assist, which has key blast properties, and I think that would help him fit into more teams. Moving on to Baby Chew. This guy, I think I might take away his Chuel low. Either that, or drastically reduce his damage output, because right now it is way too much. Like, I think this guy is one of the few characters that can go past 7,000. That is insanity. And meterless, by the way, that is. Considering the amount of meter he also builds, he pretty consistently gets to 2.5 to 3 bars per touch. I really think he shouldn't be able to do that much damage, so preferably I would go with that. Or take away his 9-frame Chuel. I would make it slower so that he has a harder time mixing you up with it. Honestly, I wouldn't mind even if both happened personally. The baby players would probably cry, I don't know. You can let me know if you think that's a terrible idea, but that's what I currently think. Oh, and also fix his A assist bug. This isn't the thing that should happen. That is just bizarre. And I'm surprised it hasn't been fixed to this day, but please take care of that. Now for Hit. I think this is the last character I'm gonna talk about. So first of all, full screen 5H, please delete this. I don't want this in the game. Just reduce how far it goes. And also 5M. This is basically just Vegito 5M but -2 on block. Something about it needs to be nerfed in my opinion. But also, giving this character a 0 on block 5L I think was a huge mistake. Because even without it, this guy is like the king of mental stack in this game. I really don't think anyone does it better than him. So just giving him this on top of every other tool he has is way overkill, I think. I think his 5L should be like -3, maybe -2, I guess. Like other 5Ls, but it's more in line with others. And there you have it. That was my wish list for the upcoming DBFZ balance patch. If you agree with me, let me know. If you disagree with me on anything, feel free to leave a comment and we can discuss. I'd be happy to. But regardless, I hope that you found this video entertaining. And let's all hope for the best from this new patch. To be entirely honest, I don't have very high hopes for it. But I still think it's pretty fun to discuss potential changes that could be made and things that we want to see and all that. So, I suppose let's give Bandai and ArcSys a little bit of our trust and hope that they are listening for once. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time. Take care.